Welcome my friends to a new video. This time this is an update on the Flask LED application we did back in 2022. That's because quite a few things changed since then. So as you can see, I have the Pi all set up. So my Pi 4 is all ready to go. I have an LED plugged in. I have the code already set to go. I have the main app code, templates, static, and the requirements file. And I got this from my GitHub repository, which I'll link in the description. And of course, I have this terminal, which is opened on the Flask GPIO directory. So, the first thing we need to discuss is how to access the Pi remotely. So we go to configuring Remote GPIO. First, we need to install Pi GPIO. Now, luckily, I have the desktop version, so it's not an issue, but if you didn't, you would run this command. Now, there's many ways to do it. Now, if you're on the desktop, you can simply enable it here using Raspberry Pi configuration. You can also use systemctl to automate the daemon at boot time. Just run this command, and then you can start it here. However, I'm going to be using this since it's just a temporary test. So, and as you can see here, it's a single session use and will not persist after a reboot. So, again, this is a temporary test, so I'll be using this. But if you'd like, you can use these commands. I will link this in the description so you can follow along. So, let's begin. Now, I should mention, you can install, now here, if you're going to set things up, there's instructions here, which I will link in the description. However, we won't be doing this because we're going to use a virtual environment. So I figure I'd show you this first. Now, we need to talk about the virtual environment, so let's get started with that. Let's go here. Now, before we begin, I want to first make this clear that when you try running this, so we're going to run pip install r, which means we're using the requirements file, requirements. Look what happens when I try that. Watch. See that? It gives us an error. It says externally managed environment. This means if I wanted to use a system-wide install, I'd have to use apt install python 3 xyz. So I can't use pip. So I could use sudo apt, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to build an environment. So in order to do that, we are going to use the venv command. So we'll do python 3 m, and then we'll do venv. Now I'm going to call it Flask, but I would prefer calling it Flask Pi. So we'll do that. Now, before we do that, if you want to install the system site, you can do system site packages. But we won't be doing here this option because it's not necessary. So we will be running this instead. So we'll give it some time to install. And there we go. So we'll do ls, and there it is. Now we can activate it with source, and then bin activate. Now we're ready to go. So let's run that command again, this time inside the virtual environment. And as you can see, I'm installing all of these libraries. So you're wondering, what's in the requirements file? Well, I'll show you. Basically, it's Flask, gpiozero, Pi GPIO, and Prometheus Flask Exporter. Again, This is from the 2022 tutorial series, so I will link the first 2 videos in the description so you guys can try that out. So again, that tutorial still works, but you'll have to use a virtual environment. And that'll be the same for Mac OS and Windows. But if you're using Linux, you should use the virtual environment, whether you're on Ubuntu, like I am on here, or Raspberry Pi OS. So, before we begin, what we need to do is enable Pi GPIO. So, because we're going to do it temporarily, we'll do sudo pi GPIO d. It's a temporary setup. So there we go. Now, I did already get the IP address, and if you want to, you can do ip-adder show. I know it's a lot, but this would be the IP address. Just go under link ether. Mine is 192.168.1.189. So I've already done that. In fact, on the code, which I'll show you briefly, I did that. See? I updated the IP address. And that's all you need to do. So again, that's all I needed to do. So the Pi is set up to go, and we are ready to run the application. So all we need to do is run python 3 app.py. So we'll run that, and we will go to the browser. So we'll go here. We'll do localhost, and then we'll do 5000, which is the address. And there we go. So let me minimize this. And yes, the LED does work as when I click it. So see, you can see it's working. The terminal is updating. It says on, off, and yes, I know it's hard to see, but the LED is turning on and off. So as you can see, we were able to successfully get this code running inside a virtual environment without affecting any of the system packages. So that's it for this tutorial, and I'll see you next time.